So of course my name is Robert Workman. I am a building biologist, and my story is pretty interesting. I did bring some notes along today that would kind of stay on cue a little bit better than the past. So I'm going to kind of read from this verse that way I can kind of get some things out to make sure I don't miss. But I had my very first symptom from electro-hypersensitivity in 1996. My body started having some tingling of the fingers, and I actually had white spots on my skin that developed that doctors really didn't know what that was. Well, when I saw Dr. Kassar in Hilo, Hawaii, he says, no, that's actually the death cycle, because what the microwave radiation does, it activates the death cycle. It thinks your body's dying, so it creates these white spots. So I thought that was pretty interesting. He had of course, I was in this truck driving to Home Depot and helped him out a little bit, and he put my hand on his shoulder, and he said, wait a few minutes, I'm going to show you a few more things. So we'll get back to that in a second. But so the industry just so happened went from 1G to 2G. Now I did not know that until I read the book called The Invisible Rainbow by Arthur Furstenberg, which in my final class in Santa Fe, New Mexico, Arthur came and spoke. And he's been doing this since 1978. He's been actually working on this because as him being a potential medical doctor, he graduated from Cambridge University, but by 1991, he came down with electro-hypersensitivity due to the MRI equipment and electrical equipment you have to use in order to be a doctor. So that was white spot. 2006, I also developed a constant pressure in my right ear, and I went to several of the top chronic itis media doctors, Dr. Herzog, which did a fabulous job. He's an amazing doctor, and also Dr. Peter Smith. And I complained that my right ear I couldn't hear, and out of the blue woke up and had no idea what was going on. I couldn't hear anybody, so I was pretty desperate being in sales, running a large company, that if you can't hear your customers and can't communicate, you're not going to do very well in sales. So I went through with 3 surgeries, and with no avail, nothing changed. And I kept telling them, my pressure is down here, it's not in here, it's right down here. So they don't know what's going on. They did the best they could do. So I moved through with that. In 2015, I had 3 major events in my life. And after those 3 major events, my body and my mind pretty much collapsed. And I wasn't able to function much anymore, almost like a post-traumatic stress syndrome, kind of like the military has. And what's interesting about post-traumatic stress with the military, it almost never happens with the Air Force or Navy. It always happens with the Marines and Army, because they are typically around a lot of air conditioning units which put out their electricity from the generators. And we're now connecting through a lot of great resources that the guys who are exposed to dirty electricity, which is destroying your immune system and your electrical system down, and it just accumulates, just like it did to me. Everything was fine, really didn't know what was going on, just kept going with my life. And then one day, I couldn't function. Well, in the military, when you see some of your friend get shot up, obviously that's a shock. Then that immune system gets shut down, and they call it post-traumatic stress syndrome. Probably is connected to a little bit of the dirty electricity that's actually being used to cool those barracks down, because I was told they spent about $3 billion just on the air conditioning bill, and those in the military. Pretty interesting. So we know now 3 to 10% will be affected at the highest level. 3 to 10% will lose everything. I can tell you they will. They will not be able to work. They won't be able to function in today's society. It will cost you about $2,000 to $4,000 a month medical care expenses that will not be covered by your medical insurance. The divorce rate's already at 50%. You're probably looking at 90% when you come down with that, because you only provide for your family and they're not really understand what's going on. I wasn't really able to piece together the puzzle, like I said, until I met Arthur Furstenberg. And when Arthur spoke, of course, you read the book. He actually wrote the book, The Invisible Rainbow. But he actually did a real good epidemiological report on the history of electricity. And the book talked about Dr. Samuel Milham, where Dr. Samuel Milham as actually when it really connected the connection with the military and electro-hypersensitivity and PTS. And dirty electricity is a huge problem. I'm going to get more into that here. But the grid, and if you took from 1877 is when most of all these major medical problems like diabetes and cancer, almost none of that existed. It's really an interesting phenomenon. When I read this book, and he has it all documented, and I guarantee it would be in History Museum soon. It's the most well-written book I've ever read in my life. I've written thousands of books. As my boss used to tell me, mentors, he says, leaders or readers, we read all the time. So in my previous occupation, we had to read a book. Read something of a book every day. So in 1889, AC current was harnessed by Nikola Tesla. It went from no use to intense use of AC current. In 1889, this so happened, was the year that the great influenza epidemic, it went worldwide. It killed 2 million people. Let's fast forward to 1918, which, there we go. Let me find my little notes here. Fast forward to 1918. I apologize, I kind of skipped the page here. Wasn't really going to go. So that was when the next flu epidemic has started as well, and that's when we started laying more lines for more electricity. So I'm going to come back. Here we go. Here we go. The Spanish flu. That's what I was going to get to. The Spanish flu. When worldwide, when radio waves started being launched, electromagnetic fields, that's why it became so deadly. And of course, I'm reading from the notes here to move through here. So, historical progression, 1957, 1958 was the erection of the incredible powerful civil defense radar station, which coincided with the next influenza. 1968 was the first launch of a military satellite that coincided with the Hong Kong flu. Arthur is actually the president of the Digital Cellular Phone Task Force. So what he's done and used epidemiology reports is he actually looked at the grid. So when they electrified the cities and then took the reports of cancer and diabetes and other illnesses and diseases, and then looked at the off-grid in the same areas like farmland. Most of the farmland was not outside the city, it was not electrified until after 1950. When those areas then became electrified, the cancer rates tripled, quadrupled, sometimes even 16 times higher than it was before it was electrified. So with us being electrical machines, we're electricity, the earth is electricity. It's why the lightnings don't strike them up, down, they strike them down, up. Because the earth is actually absorbing, it's like a big, huge pyramid of electricity flowing through us, those through our feet, up through our brain, out to the top of the ionosphere, back down. So whenever we started launching satellites, which is going to increasing the potential for the electrical grid of the earth and the ionosphere, we have a biofield, the earth has a biofield, we're all connected to that. We start adding extra detriment, other activity in that grid, just like it's done for the past 150 years since Nikola Tesla invented AC current. We're looking for a disaster, and that's not actually saying things too lightly or too heavily. That's saying it mildly. So the nice thing about building biology is it was actually founded in 1970, after the war, post-wars in Germany. And a lot of after they built the buildings after the war, people started getting sick. So they started as a building biology. They started keeping these notes and records and found out there was a connection between our bodies and the house. So as I like to say sometimes, when Winston Churchill once said, "You build a house that builds you." And we know that your electrical system is messed up in any way. If you have dirty electricity in the house's electrical system, it now feeds your electrical systems. And of course, we are electrical machines. So if we're electrical machines and it's being fed something dirty or off kilter, it's going to affect how we can actually heal or feel good or depression, what have you. So as a building biologist, what we do is we like to go in and look at the house in a couple of different ways. We like to look at the electrical fields, the magnetic fields, the radiation, the dirty electricity of each part of the house, and find out what part of the house is up meet building biology standards. But unfortunately, most houses today, it's probably the most dangerous place to be in the world. And the reason why that is in warfare, you want to keep the enemy away in their side of the territory, not in your house. So what we've done with technology, we brought that enemy into our house. And we feel that the cell phone towers are the biggest culprit or issue with radio or radiation, and it's actually not. It's actually what we brought into our homes from a few different ways. Number one is through the cell phones. Number two is your Wi-Fi router. And according to Dr. Klinghardt, my doctor, who really helped me get on track as well, Wi-Fi is a destructive 2.4 gigahertz frequency. It was designed for destruction. That's all it was designed for. They've been using these in England for docile to numb down the population. We also know that the military contractor called Thrasher invented the 900 megahertz frequency, which is your cordless phones. And what that frequency does, it's specifically designed to open your blood-brain barrier. Now, all EMFs open your blood-brain barrier, it will leak, but that was specifically designed for that. And the 2.4 is specifically designed for numbing the population down and sterilization. That's what it's designed for, and there's plenty of science behind that now. So when you look at a combination of a 2.4, a 900 gigahertz, or 900 megahertz frequencies, you combine those together, then you add Monsanto's little deal, and you have Roundup added to the equation. What that has done is now stripped our foods from any minerals, including our cells, and it's specifically designed to take the aluminum that's in your system and inject it in your brain. I find it pretty coincidental or a little bit suspicious that that's what it's designed to do or what it has been doing. So what I have found is if you can reduce the exposure of what we bring into the house, first of all, you can have a lot better chances now of having some ability to get better or heal. The 2.4 gigahertz frequency also, and the 900 megahertz frequency, the only two frequencies in the world that you do not have to have a license to use. The government loves to make money on these licenses. That's where all these different frequencies are being sold now. So the government makes money. The FCC now actually hands those out because they have their agenda. So what we can do is eliminate the Wi-Fi in your house. You can reduce your exposure by not bringing the phones into the home or at least put on airplane mode. Get a landline. And you're now going to enable again your body ability to recover. What I've noticed with some time of meeting my customers and then following the protocols or finding a mitigation recipe that I usually recommend for them, one thing you'll notice is the 2.4 gigahertz frequency is also designed to fatten you up. That's what it's designed to do. It will make a rat get fat and it will kill it in 90 days. It will not eat anymore after 90 days. At the 2.0, which is about 60 years of exposure for us. So I have a client, and she was willing to do this for me. I said, would you please sleep in your basement for 3 months and let me know what happens? And so she turned off, because she couldn't get away from all the radiation, she was just exposed too much, but she had a 9-foot pour, and she slept in her basement for 90 days. I said, what happened? She goes, I lost 20 pounds. And she did nothing else, she still ate candy bars. So did what she normally do, but she lost 20 pounds. I said, well, that's because you're not being radiated. Because in the basement, luckily because it was unfinished, she didn't have the, I call it power lines, the 120 volt power lines wrapped around her house. Which is another pretty interesting thing about what we've done to ourselves. We have this box, which is on life support. Because unless we have an air conditioning cooler, that box won't really work very well. It's not like it's We have a clay or straw clay type houses that are all real thin and it's all, heat and cool it. Then we put power lines around there. People keep saying, well, I don't want to be close to those power lines behind my house. I want you to come to my home and see what type of radiation comes from that power line. You go, let me tell you something. Well, your bedroom is going to be 15 times worse than those power lines. I can tell you that right now. Why? Because you have an alarm clock there. And then that alarm clock goes into that 120 volt socket. And then what it does, it then comes into your clock, and the electrical field from that line is usually 20, 30 times higher than being right below power lines. Because that is a power line. It's just a different voltage, but it's a power line. And then you have your power lines wrapped around your house, and then they pulsate in 6 feet. And when you pulsate in 6 feet, then you add direct electricity to it. And where does direct electricity come from? It comes from a few different things. Switch mode power supplies. Everybody has them now because our computers, of course, smart meters. They have to go from a higher voltage to a lower voltage. They're not lineal. They run on different higher low. They switch. That's download them to lower voltages. When they do that, they inject direct electricity back in your lines. And now that we have our bonding wire or system ground, which goes from your box to your water pipe for a case of a lightning strike, well, all your garbage now goes into the bond into your pipes and travels into your neighbor's house. And then what your neighbor does gets in the lines, and he starts traveling around and goes in your house. So you have a lot of millivolts worth of direct electricity traveling all throughout the grid. Then we also got the neutrals now from the power company because they want to save some money. They don't want to spend the money to go from your house to the substation. They want to go ahead and save money, so what they do is they just run it right in the ground because the ground's a great conductor. It travels right back to the substation. The problem is when you do all that direct electricity gets back in the grid again and gets transferred back. Go ahead.
What do you mean by dirty electricity?
Well, dirty electricity is just generated. What it is, we have a 60 cycle circuit up and down. 60 cycle, 120 volt goes 60 up, 60 down. Whenever we have the switch mode power supplies of any sort, it creates what we call dirty electricity. It's the higher harmonics or transients. We call it dirt that gets on top of that 60 hertz. And they're usually in the kilohertz range. 2 kilohertz and the harmonic, and they keep bouncing on top of each other. Then you also have your inverters from your solar panels now. We think, well, we want to be green, right? That's why we get solar panels. Well, unfortunately, you might be green, but you're now adding a tremendous amount of dirty electricity back into the grid because the inverters are adding into the 20,000 or 20 kilohertz worth of dirty electricity, and they ride on top of each other. It just travels around like one big happy family. Can I answer your question there? Okay. So if the ideal thing to do, I have a customer now that I'm working with right now in Maryland, in the Webster Groves. She contacted me, and what we're doing, we're moving her 200 amp service off her bedroom to the back of the house. We had to deal with Kirkwood right now and deal with them. It took forever. Ideally, I wanted to get it off the house and set up like a cage, and put up her smart meter, because or the non-RF smart meter, whatever you call it. And then I actually want to put an analog meter, okay, which is a real analog meter has a filter built into it, so it doesn't go back into the grid. I want to run into that, run over there into the digital or the electrical meter, a smart meter, and do that way. But they won't let me do that, so I have to attach it to the house. But what I'm going to do, I'm going to run it, and we're also going to run her cables in what we call MC cable, which is aluminum clad around your wires. That way the electrical field does not pulsate into your house 6 feet from all around the house. Now in your hospitals, I think even hotels, they require it to be wrapped in the MC cable, but now we use Romax. And the problem with Romax is only when you have a hot wire running to the load, then you have a neutral which comes back. As long as those wires are close together, it eliminates what we call magnetic fields. Okay, and they stay close together, like real tight. Now, if you use a knob and tube wires like we did years ago, then you create huge magnetic field that gets spread apart. The reason why the utility companies have the hot and neutral spread apart, because they can't bond them together up there because it wears out and it would actually, you know, cause issues. So they spread them out. That's why if you get below a power line, you usually have high magnetic fields, because those lines are far apart, plus the voltage is in a 700,000 volts, 120,000 volts. So by putting them close together, you're eliminating the magnetic field. The problem is it does not eliminate the electrical fields, and you don't have to have any current to have a electrical field. Just as long as you have power, as long as you have power behind it. But if you add a aluminum clad over it, okay, you eliminate those electrical fields, which helps to eliminate the dirt electricity, because it can't travel through that. So it all rides on top of each other. Okay, go ahead.
I just wanted to say a couple more things about dirty electricity. Almost all appliances give off somewhat dirty electricity, okay? It's there. But like the smart meter, it actually produces more dirty electricity, okay? And actually you pay for that. It's not, you pay for it, but it does nothing for you. You don't really get the use of the electricity. It's just, that's why they call it dirty. It's just, like Dave would say, it's foam on top of beer. It means nothing, okay? But it costs you more, and that's why.
Yeah, so
it's really not green.
So when the utility company saves and not run the neutral back to the power stations, then now there's more dirty electricity into the grid, and then you get charged for that again. So your utility bill is about 15 to 20% higher than probably what it really should be. So what you can do to mitigate that is you can add in a filter, like a static filter, into the the box in your house, which will actually filter the whole house. So a DNA filter, which I'm a big fan of. You have your Stetson filters, and the DNA filters and the static filters, for example, they do a really good job by cleaning that up for you. So you don't get charged for that additional dirt electricity. And I've had clients have actually saved where their bill was $900 a month because they had like a health spa type place. So it was really high because of all the electricity, and theirs dropped down to like $400 a month once they put in the static electricity. Yeah, so she's been in an alternative health care provider, kind of off the grid, for about 20 years now, and she's couldn't believe the difference that she saved just by putting that thing in. This is before I even got involved in this business, and we were just talking about it. He's, oh, I have a static filter that was put in. This is what I've noticed so far. Go ahead.
Would you repeat the names of those filters, please?
Static filter. There's also a filter that I work closely with a gentleman named Bill Bathgate. He actually came to St. Louis here recently. His website is DE, like dirty electricity, DE filters. LLC.com, and that's his website. You can get the DNA filter, which there's also a sine tamer, SINE tamer filter, a little bit less expensive filter you can get. But we find that so far in St. Louis, because of all what's going on, especially with the inverters from the solar panels, are really creating a lot of problems. Wind turbines are a complete nightmare, you know, for people who live out there. And the cows won't even produce milk in those areas where wind turbine. Oh, sounds great. Oh, good. So, but you know, there's already free energy out there, so I'm a little suspicious that, you know, also this is a good idea that we're trying to be green, but then there's free energy out there anyway. You can produce this stuff, and gasoline. There's ways you can produce the stuff for no cost.
Rob, are these filters something that like I could install myself, or do I have to have a professional come out?
That's a good question. Actually, the DNA filter, there's two ways you can install it. I'm actually currently renting where I'm at now, so I just plug them in the wall. There are only two of them. But ideally, when you have them installed in your panel, and maybe have an electrician just do a minor, put two outlets right by your panel. One goes on one side of the leg, the other side of the leg, so two sides of the panel is installed there. And it can be installed there by, I recommend electrician. I mean, you can do it yourself, but depends how much electrical work you know.
Yeah. And then the other question I have is, like, could you give us a little bit more background information about how these things operate, or how they actually work to tame the electricity, or to make
there's a few different ways. Well, I try to keep the broad strokes. I actually have some written down that I could have got out to explain this better. But there's one, the Stetson filter. What it does, it takes the dirty electricity and sends it to the ground.
Okay.
There's a hot, there's a neutral, which brings it back to the substation. and then there's the ground, okay, where that goes to ground where it's sent it to. The DNA filter, the way it's set up, I don't know exact specifics how to explain it, but it basically dissipates it. So there's no heating that builds up, it doesn't go to ground. So it's a little more expensive filter, it seems like it does a little bit better job. And Sign Tamer, well, Bill Bathgate was here, he's an engineer, I'm not. He could explain a little better than that. He wrote it down for me, but sometimes I'm like, okay, that sounds good, good, bad, I'll keep it simple. But that's a very good question, by the way, but if we had to know, I could have Bill contact you.
Will it help reduce with the electromagnetic frequency that's coming from the wires? Will it help reduce the radiation coming from the wires that are wrapped around us? Will those filters help with that?
Well, that's a good question actually. So it will help prevent the dirty electricity, which is zapping you. You have to understand, right now, we're getting hammered 6 feet this way, 6 feet around here, and if you have something underneath you, you're getting hammered this way too. It's 60 cycles a second it's hitting. And we work on 0 to 100 hertz. We are an analog being, not a digital being. So we're working on 0 to 100 hertz. All those years while the grid started creating cancer and creating diabetes and raise your blood sugar levels. I mean, that gets, and I always call it the manual. I got the 1971 Naval Medical Institute of all the non-ionized radiation studies. It talks about how it creates diabetes, how it causes erectile dysfunction. It causes all that stuff, what this causes. So yes, they will eliminate the dirty electricity, but we're still getting the other type of radiation too as well. So unless you either wrap it, so what I usually have to do is, people don't rewire their houses. Or my last client, I mean, Amy's gonna spend $17,000 to get all this done, but she's buying the home. It's a $500,000 house, so she feels like, you know what, I don't want to die. And she would have died in that thing. I mean, the way it was set up, her magnetic fields were over 5 in her bedroom. She has current coming through the pipes, and it's going all through our wires. And then she's got a digital RF, like a smart meter, in her water pipe. And it's talking to all the other water pipes. It's like there's one actually gathered all the information, shoots it back up to the cell phone station. So she was getting 16,000 microwatts with the radiation off her. Then it was oscillating and getting into her pipes and running all throughout her house. So she had a mess in this thing. So luckily, Bill Bathgate, who went out there with me, had an oscilloscope, which is what Sam and Milham actually use. You can see the dirty electricity in the wires, and it shows it on the oscilloscope. It's really cool. And you can see, oh, this is some dimmer switches. Dimmer switches are a nightmare. They really are bad. Get rid of those things. They cause all kinds of dirty electricity. LED, the reason why your CFLs are so bad for you, the first one is mercury in it. So that's gonna couple and go right into your body and create a mercury toxicity in your body. Then that CFL, that so-called green light bulb, it vibrates 100,000 times a second. It flickers. So that flickering is what causes the dirty electricity, and gets back into your actual grid, and also too gets in your eyes and in your electrical system. Go ahead.
Would I be accurate to think of dirty electricity as higher frequencies that
Yes.
are generated?
It couples on top
Filter
of
is just eliminating the higher frequencies.
That's exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah, it's good. These are all simplistic.
Yeah, a question, CFLs versus LEDs. LEDs a little more benign?
Yeah, the newer ones are better. The older ones were a mess. They had switch mode power supplies in the older ones. The new ones are better. The only thing I don't like about the LEDs is the light. It's still flickering. I have a nice little meter here. I can go to all the light bulbs and put my little meter on it, and it tells me how many times it's flickering. So ideally, I want to see 120 volts of flickering on this machine here. But if I have LEDs, they're all over the thousands. It bounces all over the place in this thing here. So it's really a cool little meter. It tells you if the actual light bulb's good or bad. It makes a real funny noise. And my clients love it. They take it around and kind of point at things. They go, TVs, all these LED TVs, they're a mess. I mean, they really are, unfortunately, to say all that. But I'm just really suspicious about these lights, because the light from the iPad, I was spending thousands of hours on the phone for 25 years. I was in my car all day doing home improvement business. So I was in a big Faraday cage microwave car, because if you are, you're in a microwave basically with the cell phone on. But my body, because I took care of myself, I was able to kind of get through all this, doing detoxifications about 3 or 4 times a year. But then when we added the iPad, because my finger was on it for hours a day and training, then I was airdropping, and I thought, oh, this is cool. It's just airdropping from that iPad to this pad. I didn't know that thing was putting out 30, 40,000 microwatts of the radiation. And put that perspective, we want to be below 10. And even 10 is really not great, okay? But 10 is we feel like you can function in 10 microwatts with radiation. And you want your house to be no longer than 100 microwatts of radiation. Any place in the home, if ideally. But when you sleep, you want to be below 10. Well, we're putting out 20, 30,000. Your phone sometimes pulsates, depends on what it's trying to get to, up to 2 million microwatts of radiation. That's just a pulse, and usually goes back, it settles down a little bit. Every time you text, I'm very suspicious about texting too, because it becomes, now when you're touching that device, we have a biofield around us. Our biofield works on 10 to 30 gigahertz vibrates 10 million times a second, 10 billion times a second to 30 billion times a second. It's called our biofield. And all these devices, especially when you get into the millimeter wave, are all working on from 1 to 30 gigahertz worth of frequencies, which is going to affect into our biofield. It's like the biofield of the Earth, the ionosphere, we're all connected to that stuff. When we start adding the millimeter wave, first of all, the millimeter wave doesn't work anyway. I don't care what they tell you. 5G is really 1, 2, 3, 4G. It's what it is. It's not really the millimeter. It's not really 5G. It's just 1, 2, 3, 4, and they bring it close to your house. And then you have the millimeter wave. So supposedly you have if you have a 5G phone, you can download faster and it will work. But as soon as you move your phone a foot, it goes back to 4G again. So now they got all these devices, all these excuses now to get all these transmitters right outside your house, but it's also got 4G in it, 1, 2, and 3, and 4G in it. Which now you've got more intense radiation on us 24/7, which all this is going to affect our biofields. And also, too, you're going to have more potential. The more cell phone towers you have, they have inverters. They go from the AC to DC current. You can't buy DC current. You have to convert it to DC. Anytime you do that, you inject more direct electricity into the grid. So that is why we feel that with all this additional radiation, there's going to be some huge consequences coming soon. So,
How about, if we were all wired, do fiber optics, would that solve most of the problem? How
okay,
would that
I'm glad you brought that. It's a really good question. And for me, probably 6 months ago, I said absolutely. If we're all wired, instead of Wi-Fi in the whole Earth,
Can you repeat the question, please?
What if we were all wired? If you went to wire and went totally to fiber optics, would that solve the solution? Would that be the solution?
yes, it could. But if that's the way it was actually going to happen that way, it would work because you're not exposing yourself to all the additional radiation.
And it's supposed to be better, isn't it, Rob?
It's definitely better and
Safer,
faster. There's a reason why
more safer.
Microsoft doesn't use Wi-Fi. The reason why banks don't use Wi-Fi, because you're going to get your information stolen. So why should I have a device in my house, which now I have my Social Security number back on my house again? I remember my grandpa in I think it was 1982, 83, said, Grandpa Elmer said, I can't believe they put our Social Security numbers on our driver's license. And look how stupid that was. Now we have more than your Social Security number. Now they know not just your Social Security number on your side of your house. They know everything you're doing just by the frequencies of your power on that device, and then it talks to all your TVs. Your TV is talking to them. It becomes like a bounce. It's really an interesting phenomenon because these digital meters actually like to use electronic meters. Whenever you try to get your smart meter removed, don't say smart meter. Say electronic meter. Because you use the electronic meter, then you have a better chance of getting it off. So I want a non-electronic meter, I want a mechanical.
Please say dangerous smart meters. They're very dangerous, in my opinion. That's my opinion.
Yeah, as building biologists, this is not for publication, but we feel it's an assault against any biological living thing on the planet.
And I think we should say why the telecom communication doesn't do wire. It's because it would cost more money, them more money.
Well, that's right. In 1999, according to Barry Trower, which is a microwave weapons expert from 1960s on, they had a meeting in 1999, they just said, instead of using a smart, elegant way of giving us the information, they decided let's go ahead and use a non-smart way of transporting information, which is the wireless technology. All wireless technology is toxic for anything that lives on this planet. It will end up killing everything, all insects. It will kill everything on the planet over time. Unless we just make some changes here pretty soon. Go ahead.
Could that be what's affecting the bees?
Yeah, all the bees are dying. What we noticed, and with read Arthur's book, he's a lot smarter than me, way above my pay grade. He explains all this in detail from the first transmitter or the first radio tower in 1906. It went up. It was actually on an island, and on the island they actually call it the white syndrome, because when they put the radio tower up, all the bees died. They all collapsed. And then that's why they call it the white syndrome. They didn't know what was going on. And what happens is the bees will recuperate, just kind of like we do. What's really interesting about the microwave, when you mean microwave, you live longer. If you don't die from cancer and all the other stuff, it slows your metabolism down. And that's why my friend who decided to sleep in the basement got lean. I mean, she did no working out. She got lean. And all she was doing is getting away from all the radiation. All the wires in the house. And I was a personal trainer for 6 years, so I know more about working out and health and fitness probably than 99% of people I talk to. I ate and breathed that stuff. I ran to Vic Tanny's in St. Louis for many, many years. I traveled. I was in Kansas City for a few years. Went to Del Mar, California. I was with some of the healthiest people on the planet, including Dr. Robert Kassar, who was a medical doctor back in the 1970s and 80s. His father ran 27 hospitals, and he worked in an emergency room. He says, man, there's a problem with this system here. So he became a doctor of chiropractic, then he became a parasitologist, and his family owns Big Tobacco. They owned the Cretek Corporation. So he kind of started this little retreat in Hilo, Hawaii to go ahead and kind of even out the good and bad. And I'll never forget, I was on my 7th day of not eating. It was a 3-week fast. I had to go there for 3 weeks. I was on my 7th day of not eating. He goes, let me take you into town. I said, okay, sounds good. And he drove his truck, and he stopped, and he says, do you feel anything? I go, no, I haven't eaten nothing in 7 days. I don't feel nothing. He goes, he drove it about 100 feet higher, and I said, what the hell just happened? I said, I'm starving to death. He goes, that's because the death cycle has started. He goes, you're getting focused on Wi-Fi right now. I'll never forget that. And I was starving after that. I was like, God, this is like miserable. I had to make it 15 days, and I was on my 7th day. I said, why did you do that to me? Because I knew you'd get it. Because I'll just stick you back I'll lock you in a room, give you water, you'll be fine. We made it 15 days. But that was one of the most interesting phenomena I've ever been through. Is I was not hungry at all. I was fine. You have to get about the 5th or 6th day, you don't get hungry anymore. It's kind of past. You're kind of you're in an aura. You kind of have this new feel. Like, oh my God, I feel amazing. I get exposed to Wi-Fi. I thought I was going to die. I mean, I really was starving to death. Go ahead.
So on that note, can you explain the difference between when you're near a source, whether it's a Wi-Fi router, cell phone tower, and you're reading the radiation that's coming off that source versus being at whatever distance from that and still being exposed to the frequency coming off of that?
Yeah, well, obviously distance is your friend, okay? But with the suspicion that I see here in America, because in Russia, you have to run the neutral. It has to be big enough to go back to substations. In Russia, you're not allowed to have a microwave, ever.
What?
Yeah, they used to call it radar range.
They share rules about
Radar
that.
range?
Radar range, but that wasn't very sexy, so they decided to change it a little. Anyway, and they found out because when the GIs or the military was by the radar, their candy bars would melt. And they said, oh, that's a neat idea. And then they came down microwave sickness. So electro-hypersensitivity is really microwave sickness. This is a fancy way to turn it back and make you feel like it's your fault. But it's like saying I'm sensitive to mercury. I'm sensitive to lead. We would never say that. But it's different about peanut allergies and so forth. As I think someone mentioned maybe earlier, is you can actually get away from that. Like in the 70s, my dad used to take me these bars down to Lake Ozarks. Just the smoke drove me crazy. And my dad goes, go outside then. No big deal. I went outside, got away from it. You can't do that now. It's everywhere you go. So distance is your friend, okay? But your Wi-Fi in your house is usually many more times more powerful than the cell phone tower is, because it puts out about 300,000 or 400,000 microwatts of the radiation. This is your friend. So my average house I go into, if they have the Wi-Fi on, I never get it below 300 or 400 microwatts ever, unless they're really, unless they're really far away. But in the office, you have your computers talking to your Wi-Fi router, so that's talking there. So you got radiation come from the computer, then you got radiation come from the Wi-Fi router, and it's in the same office. And sometimes they have then you have your copy machine. That's a mess, and it's talking. It's sending out radiation pulsing. You put them all together, they're sitting in 100 to 300,000 with microwatts of radiation, all the time, and they're wondering why they're sick and got diabetes and got all these problems. Go ahead.
So Bluetooth earbuds, your cell phone, regular wired earbuds. I understand that the earbuds with wires act as a conduit from your cell phone up to your eardrums.
Yeah.
And then the Bluetooth earbuds are better than putting a cell phone to your ear, are they not?
No, not. Your electrical field, and you have the potentiality to get some issue with cancer through here because of the electrical field from the wire. But what you do is, whenever I saw the more recent studies on those things, you're now putting a Wi-Fi router basically in your ear, and then you put it in both ears. They go right through your body, and all the way the science is done in the 5G summit. One of the speakers was talking about the best way, as far as not affecting your biofilm, not hold the phone with one hand, but hold two. It's actually better for you because they can kind of travel through that way. But one, but the biofilm likes to spark, and there's cameras. You can see your biofield area spark off, and you want to be like a fire, where you have this complete fire around your body, versus a spark. A spark makes it look like it's going out, like the fire's going out. So when you add the Bluetooth of any sort, that's going right through your system, and it's going right through your brain. So no, I would recommend the wire much better than I would recommend the Bluetooth. Especially those little watches that people are wearing now more than ever. You're going to start seeing that's in your chakra, so that's not very smart. But you don't know what you don't know. So that's going to go through your system. Well, you're going to start seeing rashes. Larry Gus, you saw, spoke. He taught me a lot of this stuff. Obviously he's my teacher. So Larry talked about how a lot of his clients are getting rashes up through here. That's usually the first sign of EHS, electro-hypersensitivity, is you start scratching all the time, and you get candida, and you get fungus issues, because that's what it does.
And
This
you
kind
can
of
get
Bluetooth with a wire to the ear, what are your thoughts on that? Where this goes around your neck and you have a wire to the ear.
But it's still Bluetooth from there to your
the phone, right?
Yeah. Any wireless of anything is not good. You just want to get rid of it. Because anytime you transfer information wireless, you got radiation going on. I love to measure it, find out how much is coming off that thing. Because I'm kind of curious.
He measured my phone and I put it down.
Yeah.
But Robert, what about our hands? Because I have noticed, I hope it's not my subconscious mind. I'd rather it be my subconscious mind, but I'm feeling pain in the hand.
Well, some of these symptoms, and if you don't mind, I like to kind of pull out something here really quick. But this is, I call this the cell phone guide they didn't tell you about. This is should be put in every your cell phone. These studies went back to 1926, put up by the U.S. military. And who did the cell phone industry buy the technology from? Oh, the U.S. military. And what does the military usually typically want to do? Kill things. So they just sold off. The FCC just sold off the 60 gigahertz millimeter wave frequency, and it kills all insects. They sold it to 300 different companies. So here we're adding something else to kill all the insects here. But one of the side effects of the first symptoms of electrical hypersensitivity is a lot of it's called alteration of the diameter of the blood vessels, which is what I have in my peak. I went into St. John's Mercy's, and I couldn't drive. I had MS symptoms. I couldn't walk, and my veins were swelling up because they had these lighting, which I was real sensitive to, which is any of the track lighting like this. It can make So it also says elasticity, so it makes you more sensitive to anything that's electric as well too. Almost like it pops. Like when I touch my iPad, I feel like my fingers are on fire. But I just don't touch the iPad anymore. So it's pretty simplistic here. But bone marrow issues, brain issues, sinuses, you decrease electrical resistance of the skin, alter penile function, reduce urine, alter blood flow rate. It's funny because when I was seeing my doctors, my veins are swelled 1 minute, then next minute later they shrink back down, and that's what this stuff does. This does all kinds of crazy dehydration, death. One of the side effects of.
What's the title of that report?
There's over 8,000 studies. This is 1,800 of the studies here. It's called the Naval Medical Research Institute.
Well, that's a place, that's not the name of the study though, right?
Well, that's the name. That's the people who did it.
Right, but I mean, does that particular report have a name, a title?
Well, I would just look up the National Technical Information Service, possibly, or the Naval Medical Research Institute. I'm not that smart, so I'd say.
Yeah, and I've used those things. MTIS is
Yeah.
just a place to go find studies, but it's not the name of the study.
Yeah, you can go to the. You're gonna find this right here. I mean, it's I just know these people did the study, so it's military.
I would just like to say, Dave and I had a lot of weird stuff over those years, but you don't pay attention to all this stuff that happens to you. I mean, but we looked back and think of all the weird stuff that happened. I broke out with things on my head. My head was swollen. I don't know, it's just weird. And Dave broke out in a rash one time too, and just different things. I just think there's a lot of you just don't. We paid attention to every little thing. We'd probably be really a lot worse off. We were already healthy. We were already into the health food and eating organic and everything you could imagine. So we would have been a lot worse off if we hadn't been doing that.
So let me get into the mechanism in a minute too. Go ahead.
Robert, please mention about how if you hold a cell phone next to a beehive, all the bees leave.
Oh yes,
Our
yeah,
food supply.
yeah,
The bees die and the insects.
Well,
birds.
yeah, actually, I said, Dr. Sorry, he had a beehive down there, and he wouldn't do it for us because his bees won't come back. But we do know if you put a cell phone by a beehive, within 5 to 10 days, it completely collapses. It only takes 5 days, they're done, and usually they won't come back. We do know that for sure. I just read a study on that. I have it with me someplace. I just looked it up. If you go to Arthur Furstenberg's, so go to Arthur Furstenberg, go to his website. It's Arthur Furstenberg pops up. Here's all the studies on the bees. Talking about the beehive study, the whole 9 yards, but they start making special noises for about a week, a day or two. Then that's this noise. There's like, no, that's how the hives know we're going to swarm and leave here real soon.
Also, I saw a video where the people trying to do the 5G are cutting down the mature trees where the birds live and the insects live, so that they can do the 5G, which is
That's in the
ultimately to
That's
our
in the
food
UK.
supply.
Yeah, you allow that in the UK. So according to Barry Trower, through his studies as well, the bees only really pollinate about 20 to 30% of all of our stuff. But 70 to 80% comes from the insects. Because they creepy crawlers, they crawl on it, and they're there, and that's how they actually pollinate. So we do know that for sure, that our insect population is down tremendously. I mean, you will never find insects around these light poles anymore. Why? Because they're using LED. Right. And LED, if you stare, I wouldn't want to ask anybody to do that. If you stare at a thing for a full minute, I guarantee you'll have eye damage. I guarantee it. Because I got the testing material instruments to test these things out, and they're really off the charts. So I'm really suspicious about that.
People installing these towers,
Well, that's another part of the dilemma, because the people are going to have to clean these windows on the medical buildings, or any windows of any building. Those cell phone tower are speakers, I like to call them, are right there on those buildings. So how are they going to clean around them? We're going to shut it off? They're not going to shut it off. They'll be right there exposed.
Well, even the people installing them, they're exposed, aren't they? Or
Well,
is it not
I don't know. Yeah, they have to. Yeah, I don't know if they were protective gear or not. That's another whole another animal. It's like, this is bad enough the way it is.
I'm sorry,
but
which
the power's
light bulb
not on.
do you recommend us use?
What's that?
Which light bulb do you recommend?
The regular
that we use?
old-fashioned halogen light bulbs or your incandescent light bulbs.
Thank
They put out more heat, they're not as efficient, but they're way better for your dirty electricity, and they won't kill you.
What about LED?
But just so you know, LED, the EcoSmarts seem to be okay. Ones that tested those out. EcoSmarts tend to be okay. But
And we
But
found
the
out that,
LEDs
that
bad
the
for your
Kelvin,
eyes.
the Kelvin
What?
needs
The
to be
LEDs bad
below,
for your eyes.
2,700.
Yeah.
no,
3,000
no, what does the Kelvin need?
3,000 and below.
It needs to be 3,000 or below Kelvin.
So, before we run out of time, I want to just get this part here. So we do know the mechanism now that makes all this thing tick. That we know for sure that the microwave radiation, 100% without any question, will damage you. It's not a matter of if. We know the mechanism now. And the mechanism is when you have a cell, y'all, and you picture a big cell in your mind for a second here, and you have on the inside of that cell, on the outside wall, let's say, you have a plasma, and then you have what they call, I call them gatekeepers. I think there's a special name for them. It's in my Building Biology book over here. And those gatekeepers, and everything works on electricity. So as Dr. Klinkhardt taught me, he says no such thing as a bad or good organism in your body. They all talk to each other. And they're all friends. But when you add radiation to it, they don't become friends anymore. But what happens is the bad becomes really extremely aggressive. So when you expose yourself to microwave radiation, those gatekeepers know when to open, when to close. Normally, like what proper amount of calcium come into those cells, nitric oxide to go into those cells, and then it also helps regulate your blood-brain barrier. When you add microwave radiation of any sort, you now confuse those gatekeepers. And Dr. Martin Paul has got the more elaborate version of my explanation here of how that works. And pretty soon, one day you touch your phone one day, those gatekeepers stay open permanently. And that's when the Lyme disease shows up. That's when the mold shows up. That's when the blood-brain barrier opens up. And so then you add 900 megahertz frequency, which opens it up anyway. And then you have a bunch of drivers like the glyphosate added to the equation. And that's why we're in this, kind of this situation where we're sometimes so sick you can't even do nothing about it. You're just in stuck mode. You get so numbed down. You don't even want to deal with this. My average person, unless you're sick, doesn't want to hear about this. I don't blame them. Who wants to hear about this stuff? Because you're so tired of it. And that's just where we're at right now. And what the microwave would do to us over time, it makes you very, very less likely to fight back. That's why it was used in the military, unfortunately. It's just keep it simple. It makes you stupid as well. It makes you cannot cross your right and left brains. You're the right brain and left brain with microwave radiation. You can't do both. And you want to cross them if possible. That way you're not to this side or to that side. And as Dr. Robert Costello taught me, is when we did that fast, he was trying to cross our left and right brains. That way we can see through different goggles and see what he calls the truth versus, there or here. But microwave has a tendency to dumb us down. So that's the mechanism. And you can go to Dr. Martin Paul's website and look at his material, how to perfectly explain all that. But to keep it simple, that's where all this comes down to. We know for sure this is actually damaging our bodies because of the gatekeepers and what's called calcium gated, the voltage gated calcium channels. And we have 7 of those, and plants have 1. And what we know when you expose plants to microwave radiation, that voltage gated calcium channel creates something in the plant where it creates terpenes. And these terpenes, actually, in the right occasion, the plant will just explode and turn into fire. And they're wondering why we're having these weird fires in California. Well, when you're exposing everything to microwave radiation, they start producing these terpenes, and then now you light a fire on top of it. We're very suspicious about why those fires have gotten worse because of the voltage-gated calcium channels to plants too. I have videos of this, so we do have a lot of destruction with usually our spruce trees, pine trees, because of the way the physics works. The skinnier you are, the more likely for the radiation to affect you. It's the way physics works. The more mass you have, well, I recommend keep it because it's going to affect you less likely. Every health clinic I went to, when I talked to the sickest people, one was a Boeing engineer. I never forget, he had tears in his eyes, and he said, "I don't know how much longer I can take of this." And they're always really skinny. And you're always eat 2 foods. That's all you need, 2 foods, vegetable and a vegetable, that's about it. And because that's what the microwave radiation does. It makes you create tons of food allergies. So any more questions?
Do you happen to have a business card?
Yeah, I do have business cards and I got some flyers.
Yeah, I have to go.
Yep,
I have to
absolutely.
fly, and I have to.
Yeah, let me go ahead and.
And I'd love to have a card, and thank you very much for coming.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. You can just take a couple of those.
Thank you.
Okay.
So, you want contact.
Go ahead. Any more questions? Yes.
Contact fluorescent lights. What do you think of those?
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get out earlier. When I was in the hospital at St. John's Mercy, that's one thing they have going. My veins is swelled up. I was so pretty bad shape then, so I was sensitive to everything, including my car. Your car's a big booby trap, by the way. We can get to that too if you like, but your car is a complete death trap. I understand because what those things put out. We can get to that. But yes, they're bad. So they create a tremendous amount because switchable power supplies go from the AC to DC current. They bring the voltage down so it runs. It creates a tremendous. I've seen just turn off one of those things, and it went from 2,000 or 3,000, 2,000 millivolts worth of radiation down to 100 of dirty electricity throughout the house. They produce a tremendous amount of dirty electricity from what I've seen so far. Go ahead.
I have a question. I have an older home that's got knob and tube wiring. Is there any suggestions you might make as a device you were saying that might work? Or?
Well, knob and tube, yeah, that's a great question actually. I was just talking to Tim Bird at Bird Electric. Bird Electric actually and I are working together on making these homes safer. I'm training them right now. I'm actually have another trainer, another EMF named Andrew McAfee. He's a electrician, but he's also an expert in this. The guy's brilliant. I met him in a house in Nashville, Tennessee for a music star. It was kind of fun. I thought I was in the movies. It felt like I was in the movies. We worked there together. But knob and tube, because they're far apart, they put out a tremendous amount of magnetic fields. And I don't know, I haven't tested them for direct electricity, so I don't really know how that would be any different with that. It might be the same. But I just think,
Other than ripping it all out and putting in Romex in, is there?
you could probably maybe try to filter it. I'd have to do some research on that. I'd like to check into that. I talked to Orrin Miller or I talked to Bill Bathgate about that because they would know more about the knob and tube. We just know that you can't really fix it. And what happened, but just so you know, 8 out of 10 of my houses have had what we call miswires. And even my electrician, Tim Bird, of his 30 years, didn't know this. It's a code violation. When you have 2 different circuits go into a junction box of any sort, and then they go 2 different ways, or they come in there and they bind these neutrals together in 2 different circuits. Well, then you have potentiality for current. So instead of going this way, then one goes this way, wraps around the whole entire room, and the whole room becomes those power lines. Then you have huge magnetic fields like knob and tube, but one's over there, one's over here, and you have huge magnetic fields. And that's what happens to some of these people. They have this miswires going on.
Yeah, presently the code allows running 2 circuits using 1 neutral.
What's that now?
I say presently the code allows 2 circuits to share 1 neutral.
Yeah, it's a code violation. You can't do that. Two different branch circuits cannot go in and share it even. And so did Mr. Bird thought the same thing too. I said, no, you can't do that because what's going to happen there is the current will go not like least path, it goes everywhere. He said, well, if it's the same amperage, you can do that. I said, no, you cannot do it. I can show you the code, NEC code on that. You cannot have 2 different circuits share a neutral. It creates havoc throughout the house. And I can show you the documentation if you'd like to see it. But yeah, it's got to be the same circuit. Go ahead.
I want this one question answered today about shun guide. Has anybody heard
Oh,
of
I
shun guide?
have.
What do you
Yeah,
know about it?
Nancy Hopkins is really big about that. She's wonderful. She works in the U.S. military in the 70s in a microwave weapons department.
What was the question?
Shun guide. Shun guide.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
You think it works?
Well,
What is it?
What is shun
If you can
guide?
start off with, just explain to us roughly what it is.
Okay, shun guide, I believe, is some sort of a mineral.
It's a carbon mineral
Okay.
only found in Karelia, Russia.
Yeah.
There we
Okay.
go.
Yeah.
I've got one too.
Okay.
I've got it all
So.
over my house.
Well, I didn't know nothing about shun guide, but Nancy, and actually my friend Bill Bathke, who's an engineer, a very skeptical guy by the way, because unless he tested it, he don't believe in anything. Even he thought it had some health benefits, but we know it doesn't have any health benefits for the millimeter wave, but up to 4G it supposedly does. I've tried out one. I didn't notice any difference yet, but the way Bill said it has to wrap around the entire neck for it to work
Like a pearl necklace.
like a pearl necklace. Yeah, so but I think there's some hope there. And Nancy, if you watch her Where Did the Bees Go, and some of her YouTube stuff, Where Did Bees Go, I think it's called. She's pretty low key. I like her. I like listening to her. Sometimes I listen to people. I don't like the way they sound, but she I like to hear a lot. But she talks a lot about shungite, and she worked in the '70s. She knew all about this microwave stuff, so she's pretty interesting to watch. Any other questions? Mm-hmm.
So did you get into doing what you're doing now from being sick?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. I'm glad you brought that up because here I am. I had a really good paying job, a really good job for my industry, probably the highest paid in the state, unless I was the owner of a company, pretty sure. But it took me 20 years to build that up. So I also was getting sick, and I was like feeling like I was dying. And so I saw Dr. Simon Yu here. He helped me out, gave me stable, but there was something I was missing. And I said, every time I run my phone, I have problems around my car. The screen from my car area, that's bothering me. Wi-Fi's bothering me. And so you think there's a connection? He just wouldn't really elaborate on that enough. So Dr. Klinghardt, I watched some of his videos. They shield their whole office. I mean, the whole place is shielded. I go, well, heck. And he said, well, if you want to see me, which he doesn't take clients anymore, but he said, if you want to see me personally, unless you sleep in a net and turn your circuit breakers off, I won't talk to you. I'm wasting my time. I thought that was pretty interesting. He said, we need to hire a building biologist. So I get online, and I'm like, who can I find? I got a hold of Orrin Miller. And Orrin Miller, 4 years ago, I said, Orrin, would you please come to St. Louis? I'll pay you $3,000. And he remembers the conversation. I said, I'll pay you for a flight, I'll give you $3,000 to come to St. Louis and mitigate my house. And he said, well, no, I'll do it over the phone. So 11 hours later, $100 an hour, I finally get my house mitigated. I'm getting radiated the whole time, of course, with holding my phone. I don't know anything better. I had to buy the equipment. It's been dozen hours on YouTube figuring this thing out and finally doing it. I said, okay, I'm ready to go now. A year later, because a year and a half waiting list, a year later was to go see Dr. Klinghardt. So that's kind of, that intrigued me. Then I went to Dr. Cassard, did the fast, and went straight there. Went to Klinghardt, but they thought I was nuts. They said, you did a 3-week fast before you came here? I said, man, I'm determined. Because I was going to lose my job. I was on thin ice. I had a real.
Is he up in Seattle?
He's in Seattle, yes. It's a beautiful area over there. It is a beautiful place to go to. I liked it. And I can say with Dr. Simon Yu, though, he's done a good job. He actually tests for it now, and he refers me to some of his patients, so he understands the differences. I tell you, it made my symptoms worse because when I was killing the problem, the radiation fed it, and it came back stronger. Then it came back stronger. I literally thought I was going to die. Yeah. That's how bad it was. I lost 40 pounds on muscle. I was a big bodybuilder. I was like, I can squat 500 pounds. Bend the bars. At the end of my day, I couldn't squat 130 pounds. It was like, I don't know what was going on, man. I just thought everything was shut down. So that's kind of how I got into it, and it just intrigued me. And I was like, this is like the funnest thing I've ever done, though. It's like fun. It's like you're a kid again. So this whole thing. It should be, you have to make it fun as much as you can, if not get depressed, make it very fun. But I want to kind of elaborate one more time about the hardwiring here in a minute, about hardwire everything. That's going to help, but it's not going to prevent 5G. And I believe what Arthur says. And just think about this. You don't have to go off the end when I tell you this. The only way this is ever going to go away. And I think Arthur's right. He's been studying this for over 30 years, a lot longer than I have. He's way smarter than I am. And the guy's brilliant. Brilliant. When the system was to hide anything from us, and I was taught this by a guy named Kevin Trudeau, the computer's guy. He sold more books than Harry Potter. I spent personal time with him. It cost me a lot of money to do that too. But he said, if the system wants to hide anything from anybody, they make sure it's right in front of your face. They make sure it's really simple, and they'll keep telling it to you over and over again. That it's okay when it's really not. If it's in front of your face and it's really simple, that's the problem. So if you think about it, our phones are in our face all day, and we're trying to find the solutions, but it's right in front of our face, and it's smart this, smart that, smart this, smart that, which is really not very smart. Everything I've ever tested that was smart was a disaster. Now I have a funny acronym for SMART. You guys are gonna get mad at me for saying this, but I think the S stands for secret, the M stands for military, and A stands for armaments, and R stands for residential, and T stands for technology. Secret, military, armaments, and then residential technology. I don't have any proof on that, but this is kind of way I'm able to absorb that in my mind to make sure I don't think that it's okay. Because this doesn't seem like anything they say is okay is really that okay at all, so, go ahead.
Are you aware, I saw a commercial that said 5G will be turned on in St. Louis December 9th or
Okay.
whatever date.
Okay. December 9th of this year or what, next year?
That just within the past few weeks, the thing that really alarmed me was I also have been poisoned and no one can understand, but I luckily found an environmental doctor that went right to the fungal and the mold and the different things, but 2 weeks ago, heavy metals, parasites, 2 weeks ago, my blood pressure shot up to like 200/1. I've never had a blood
Yeah, that's
pressure issue.
5G.
I
That does that.
also have lost the use of my right hand.
Yeah.
I'm completely electrified. I have the
Let me say
white dots are coming all over me now.
Let me get one more thing about the 5G. The millimeter wave, the way it works, is supposed to be where your skin, first of all, is an antenna. It's the largest organ we have. So we're hitting our largest organ with those millimeter wave stuff, and we know that it's either 90 gigahertz you can evaporate. Well, actually, that's what they use for crowd control. But 60 gigahertz will evaporate you. You're gone. 60 gigahertz, you completely evaporate. So that's military. That's known as well too. But what's the problem with it is what they don't talk about is it's supposed to travel in your skin, but you have what I call little portals, which is your sweat glands. You have millions of those, if not more than that, millions and billions. So what's going to happen is that millimeter waves are going to go in those portals and go throughout your system and create your body to get sick. So that's the common sense that's already been tested, what's going to happen. So that's a concern we have. That's why people in the UK are getting nosebleeds. It's really launched that way up in called Gateshead. Gateshead in the UK they've already launched the 5G, and they're using the lighting there for the 5G. And unfortunately, it looks like it's got some untested technology in lighting too. Go ahead.
How do you protect yourself going out and trying to help people the way you're doing? How do you help yourself?
Well, I do a couple things. I do a lot of stuff to prepare. So I'm actually sleeping in the net, turn my electricity off at night, and you feel like your daddy went to heaven. I'm telling you that right now. It's unbelievable how you feel. Especially the more healthy you are, the more you're going to be affected by this electro-hypersensitivity. So, because your body is working better and it's more connected to the earth. The good news about the less healthy you are, God bless my sister. She eats can bars every day and smokes 2 cigarettes a day. She ain't affected by it at all. God bless her heart. She's got lead, cadmium, and everything else in her body from the cigarettes. And Dr. Kazar said, well, Rob, there's actually 4,000 chemicals we put in that thing. Not just 2 or 3.
So you say sleep in that Faraday cage?
Yeah, it's a net. The cheapest way is sleep in your basement. If you have a 9-foot pour, turn off your lights above. That's great. You get usually below 10 microwatts of radiation in most people's basements. That's a great place to sleep. Might be a little cold, but it's a great place to sleep. Unless you all have a drywall and then drop ceilings and all that stuff, that's a little harder to get it to where it needs to be. But you need to turn off the electricity then.
So you bought a...
Yeah, it's called
Faraday
Daylight.
cage.
Yeah, it's called Safe Living Technologies. I got some brochures. Rob Metzer also helped train me. I had 4 people that trained me. Rob Metzer, Orrin Miller, Larry Gust, and then Bill Bathgate. So I sleep in a net. The only problem I notice in the city is I have 2 meters, and it really takes a science here because some meters read up to a certain point and some don't go down below a certain point. So when I do my meters, I have to have this one here, which measures from 650 megahertz to 10 gigahertz. This goes up really high to really...
We've got 5 minutes.
Okay.
We gotta close up, we gotta put everything in order before we.
What's the name of that?
So I have another meter that goes down to 27 megahertz. So I have to use both of them, and what happens is there's a lot of radio waves coming in, and I actually feel the radio waves, the lower frequency type waves. And this doesn't pick up very much of the radio waves at all. They're below the 600, the 650. So that's why I have to use 2. Go ahead.
What do you
But-
do about doesn't some radiation run through the net, the netting that you're sleeping on?
Well, I get down to 10, so it's pretty good. So just deal with that. But I had to do my house special. I'm in a villa. Villas are problematic, so are apartments, because I share a wall with a customer, with my neighbor. So she's a customer though, but my neighbor. So I had to put aluminum foil, and I had to ground it. And by doing that, it prevented electrical fields from coming in, because when I turned off my power, it actually made it worse, because
Right.
it wasn't canceling each other out. So I had to turn off my power, and then ground it, block it, and now it blocks all of it.
How do you know?
Do you think in terms of the question that was asked about protecting yourself, that right now we have RFID wallets. Do you think people will start producing RFID clothing that will protect you?
Oh yeah, there are extras clothing now. There's companies that do millions of dollars a year in that clothing. Less EMF sells clothing. Amazon sells clothing. My client in Nashville, who I went to her house, she wears it all 7 days a week and says swears by it. So not everybody has the same benefit. But
What's it called?
Have you tested the EMF cloth, protective cloth?
well, if it's cloth as far as put around your body or cloth,
Well, they sell like bed sheets or, it's a cloth, I was gonna put like every kind of natural.
yeah, if it's got silver in it of some sort. I mean, sure it works. Just get a meter and test it out, and just go by how you feel. But yeah, they all work. I mean, I have one of the girls, Elizabeth, who's coming to Building Biologist as well. She lives in Kansas City. When she had a tent that blew up, and then she put a cloth over it, and it's like a $30 tent just popped up, and she put a cloth over it, and she was able to sleep, and they got it down to like 1. It was unbelievable. Because if I turned my phone on two doors over, she'd go into a seizure.
Yeah.
That's how sensitive she was. Yeah, so she really had to be careful. But yeah, there are other ways you can do it less expensive than getting them. You can't have these
Yeah, this is our story, and it's about how we were affected by smart meter. Okay. At the end of 2012, because of some remodeling we had done at our home, our main electrical board was moved to a new location. The electric company took advantage of this to install a new digital meter, sometimes called a smart meter. At the time, we were unaware that it emitted wireless microwave radiation and extra dirty electricity. Unfortunately for us, it was installed right outside our bedroom window, within 3 feet of where we slept. The closer you are to the meter, the more intense the radiation. We were both at retirement age, but healthier than our peers and not on any medication. Therefore, Dave decided to continue working till he was 70. But to our dismay, he began to slow down. So much so that relatives questioned if he had had a stroke. Doctors brushed it off as part of aging, but I had more concerns for him. Then I broke out in hives and angioedema, the episodes of which became closer and closer together over those 6 years that we were being exposed, and they became chronic. After all sorts of tests, the doctors were baffled as to the cause, and decided that I had some sort of autoimmune or mast cell disease. Everybody has autoimmune today, right? Tests showed that we were both suffering from adrenal fatigue. Not able to do much else, we were sitting in our living room viewing YouTube videos on our TV, and we came across one warning about the possible health issues caused by a smart meter. This is when we made the connection and realized that all our health issues started about a year or more after the smart meter was installed. At the same time, we learned the dangers of the Wi-Fi. This helped us to explain Dave's seemingly overnight aging, as he had been installing Wi-Fi the last 3 years of his employment. So without us being aware of it, he was exposed all day at work and then at night while he slept to microwave radiation and dirty electricity, or EMFs, electrical magnetic forces. He immediately turned off our Wi-Fi. We had understood that it would be a battle to get the electric company to remove the smart meter with an analog one, and we were already too stressed for a fight, so we sought other solutions. Fortunately, that same day, we learned that we could filter the meter and eliminate up to 98% of the radiation, which we did. And we also,
May I ask how you did that?
well, it was very simple, actually. We just went to Harvard store and got aluminum screening.
A what screen?
Aluminum screening for your windows,
Aluminum?
aluminum screening,
Like a Faraday cage.
and cut 12-inch squares and turned them, 3 of them, and turned them slightly to make a real fine screen. We put it on with Ziploc. Of course, then Dave, we had to invest in a meter to read it to see if it really worked. Okay. We also added other electrical filters throughout our home to help eliminate the dirty electricity. It was this last December, 2018, that we made all these changes. I was able to get off my medication and my hives were gone almost immediately. I have gotten most of my strength back, but Dave was hit harder, so it is taking him longer. Also, we don't know how much permanent damage has been done, as Dave has developed the first signs of Parkinson's. And as you know, our medical authorities and scientists have not determined the cause of Parkinson's. Everybody has Parkinson's today, too. And the symptoms really vary. They have no real test to see if you have Parkinson's. It's just by symptoms. To update you, in September of this year, Ameren replaced our digital meter with a mechanical meter, sometimes called an analog meter. It cost us $150, and we were told we'd have to pay an additional $45 each month for them to come out and read it. Now, the good thing is for us, we don't know if it's a mistake, but so far they haven't charged us the monthly fee. We're afraid to tell them. The truth is, no one should have to go through all this, what we did. These new technologies should not be installed until they can be made safe. The manufacturers and electric companies should be held accountable. Most of all, we need to reveal the corruption and conflict of interest in the FCC and our government institutions that let such injustices continue. We and thousands of others have already been injured by this wireless technology, and now the telecom corporations are rolling out the 5G with outdated safety standards. We, the people, are their guinea pigs. The government has made it possible for them to bypass local authorities. If they are allowed to do this as planned, thousands and thousands will suffer needlessly and not know what hit them until it's too late. Through the Building Biologist Institute, and that's another good website.
Building what?
Building Biologist Institute. It's a great website for more information. And we have a building biologist with us today. We were introduced to Robert Workman, and he was able to come to our home and inspect it further. He verified what we'd already done, and he was able to also do other testing that we weren't aware of. And he's here with us today. Rob?